about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. One of her advocacy, unapologetic, single mother by choice with a wild and inspirational infertility story to tell. Author, nonprofit founder, feminist, and badass mother of two, no other than Miss Cheri Bergeron.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
Welcome, Miss Cherry. Book one interview, and can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure. I was a high tech executive for 30 years, and I was very driven by my career. And I had this passion for uh, my career and growing in that way. I was financially independent, and I was the master of my own destiny, but I really had a hard time creating the family I wanted to. And I had this traditional fairy tale in my head that I would just meet the right person, children would come easily, as they did for my parents, and we would live happily ever after. But that wasn't my path. And so I ended up on a 10-year struggle of infertility and ultimately decided to be a single mother by choice at the ages of 44 and 2 weeks from my 47th birthday. And I made a lot of mistakes, and there were a lot of things I didn't know. And so that was really the driving force behind me writing my book, Mission Motherhood, and also creating the nonprofit Cherie's Choice to help other women navigate their path to motherhood.
Miss Cherry, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you. And today let's talk about fertility after 40. Let's start by framing the landscape. For someone at 40 who is just starting to consider motherhood, what does the data actually tell us about their chances? And how do you help them hold both hope and realism?
Yes, well, it's a great question because I was very ill informed about reproductive timelines. And when I sat in the fertility clinic office at the age of 40, I received some very hard truths. And those hard truths are that statistically, women's fertility starts to decline at 30, and that decline accelerates around 35. And I had this narrative in my head that I had plenty of time somehow. I had seen celebrities having children in their 40s, even in their 50s. And so I really thought that I had a lot more time than I did. So, someone who's coming to me at the age of 40, like I was, we have to explore probably more elaborate approaches because it's unlikely that a natural pregnancy is going to work. The odds are about 10% for a woman at 40. And it depends on sometimes people's biological clocks tick faster than others. And so, what I learned in that process, though, was that there was something called egg donors. And that was a revelation to me because I'd heard of sperm donors, but I'd never heard of egg donors. And I learned that if I used the eggs of a younger woman, say a 25-year-old woman, that my odds of a healthy baby were the same as hers. So to me, that kind of felt like the fountain of youth. I mean, I had to let go of some notions that the child would be genetically mine, but the odds of being able to be a mother, carry the child, and have a healthy child far outweighed those trade offs for me. So, we would probably talk about first getting a fertility assessment and then consider egg donors if egg quality was an issue.
And congratulations, your book is number one Amazon bestseller. Tell us
Thank
about this book.
you. Thank you. I mean, this book was really meant to be a bit of a love letter to other women who have struggled through this. It's a very raw and real account of what it's like to struggle with infertility. So it's not for the weak or the meek, because it's meant to be the kind of raw experience you would share with another girlfriend with a bottle of wine in a dimly lit restaurant and things. So I talk a lot about what I went through, but at the end, I also really talk about what I learned and what I wish my younger self had known. And so I think that is the real key. I want, through my nonprofit, to equip women to make a proactive plan for motherhood so that they are intentional about planning that journey and they have more options than I did.
Miss Shari, the title is so evocative. Writing a new fairy tale. What was the moment or realization that made you see motherhood not just a real role, but as a mission to be authored?
Yeah, well, for me, it was just something that I was unwilling to compromise. And so I was steadfast in my belief that I was meant to be a mother, that I wouldn't feel fulfilled as a person. And that's not to say that's true for every woman, okay? But for me, I knew that this was just a critical thing for me. And it was really about the impact that I wanted to leave on the world. I'd come to this realization that the work I was doing in the software business probably wasn't going to matter a few weeks after I was gone. And I wanted to leave a more lasting legacy. And for me, motherhood was a part of that. I had no idea that I'd also go on a journey where I'm going to get to help other women. But, mission motherhood just for me meant I was going to accomplish this goal one way or another. And I wasn't going to accept failure as an option.
Yes, definitely. What is the old fairy tale of motherhood? What do you believe most needs rewriting, and how is it actively harming women who try to live by it?
I love this question because I don't think we really even realize we're living this fairy tale, but I think it comes from our upbringing. In my situation, I had a mother and a father who married in their early 20s, had their children by the age of 27 or 28. So they didn't experience any fertility problems. Not to say that people of those ages don't experience fertility, because they do, but in my situation, I believed that the way to become a mother was to meet the right person, get married, and then have children. But it never just came together for me like that. In fact, the relationships I was in would often fall apart around this question of, do I see myself having children with this person? And so I was on this merry-go-round and starting over every time. And I think a lot of women are trapped in that. And trying to force fit this fairy tale, just so that they can become mothers. And what I found in my situation was that trying to force fit that fairy tale with the wrong person can create a lot more damage, a lot more harm than good. And, I went through 8 years of my life in a relationship that was not the right relationship with me. I ended up having a very toxic divorce, and my daughter suffers the consequences of some of that. And if I had just had the courage and the knowledge to choose single motherhood and then find the right person for me in its own time, I think I could have saved myself a lot of the pain.
Indeed, please find the right person for you by hook or by crook.
Please, 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 please. But here's the thing, it's
Hmm.
our biological clock that often creates this pressure that we feel that we need to find that person and find them fast, and we don't necessarily give it the time. I dated someone for 10 months. It wasn't long enough to see who this person was. And I think women can do things like freeze their eggs or take other measures like get a fertility assessment to know where they are, and really come from a position of strength rather than a position of weakness, so that they can take the time to find the right person for them. Maybe it's going to happen out of order. And you know what? I think that's okay.
Yes. And Miss Sherry, can you share a personal story from your own journey that became the seed of the book's central message?
Well, sure. I mean, I think what happened to me was, the fertility journey is a brutal one. We, as women, measure our lives in 30-day increments. We start that first cycle full of hope and optimism, and a few weeks later, all of our dreams are dashed. And really, we blame ourselves. We say, this is because of the choices I made. My body is failing me. Maybe I don't deserve to be a mother. And I struggled not only with that, but with a partner who just was not supportive to me. And so as we went through this process, we unfortunately had loss of a child, and that's not uncommon in fertility treatments. And that was really the breaking point, because what I realized was we didn't view parenthood the same way. We didn't value it the same way. And that was the moment I realized I needed to do it on my own. And frankly, so many people would say that that was failure. But looking back, I now understand that was freedom, because I would be able to create the family I wanted, be aligned, and create the family I'd always dreamed of, have the children, focus on them, and create a beautiful family.
Deconstructing the old narrative, you talk about societal scripts. What are the most pervasive and spoken rules of traditional motherhood fairy tale that women internalize without even realizing it?
Right. Well, I think that the first one is that you have to have a partner in order to qualify for parenthood. I think that's one of the big things. And then that there's really only one path to motherhood, that traditional path of you meet your special person and then you have children and you live happily ever after. But frankly, there are a lot of different paths to motherhood. I mean, there are the fertility journey, there's donors, there is surrogacy, there's fostering, adoption. There's so many paths to motherhood. And I think we need to release ourselves from this idea that there is just one size fits all. I often say that the fairy tale is not one size fits all, just the way that dresses aren't.
Yes. And Miss Sherry, how do cultural archetypes from the perfect martyr mom to having an old superwoman set us up our guilt and exhaustion?
Well, it does. And I think that there's a big conversation to have there, probably beyond the time that we have here. But I think what I understand is that motherhood is a journey of love and a journey in a lot of ways of selflessness. And that's what drew me. I wanted to be able to give of myself in a way that I was shaping, uh, young lives and leaving a legacy. And so I think if that's your goal, we in our society today, we put so much pressure on ourselves to do everything perfectly, and we have to have the expensive birthday parties and we have to have all the electronics. But if we step back, our children only need a few things. They need love, they need acceptance, and they need our time. And all of these other things are a bit of a distraction, because children, at the end of the day, that's not what they value. That's not what is going to matter. So I think we need to give ourselves a little bit more grace and put less pressure on ourselves to have all of the things that society tells us we have to have.
Crafting the new story, Miss Sherry, what does the first step of writing your new fairy tale look like practically? Is it journaling exercises, a conversation, or a declaration?
Well, for me, that's why I started Cherie's Choice, because my book is really about my journey and the things that I wish I had done differently. But Cherie's Choice is a way that I actually activate this for other women. So I do coaching, we have counseling, we provide workshops. I think the first thing you need to do is get really clear about your values, your priorities, and your non negotiables. And I don't think we do that early enough as women. So, what I'm asserting is that true female empowerment isn't just excelling in our jobs or planning our careers. It's actually planning our path to motherhood the same way that we plan our careers, and prioritizing that as part of the overall mix of what we want for our lives. And that's really what Cherie's Choice focuses on, is helping women look at their core values and their priorities, and then look at the options and build their path from there.
Yes, and we salute you for doing that, Miss Sherry. Empowering women all over the world is something else. We don't lost for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A key part of any good story is defining the protagonist's values. How do you guide mother to identify her own care values for her family, separate from the noise of what she should value?
Well, I think those are the kinds of exercises that we go through to understand what is really important to me. Why do I want to be a mother? And actually, are these my priorities? Are they somebody else's? And so I think that is the process of introspection that we look at to try to separate what's really my voice and what might be the voices of others. And so that is the work that we do so that women can get clear about really the kind of life that they want and the kind of family that they want, not the values that they've inherited either from their family of origin or from society. And I think once you get clear about that, a lot of things become a lot easier.
Yes. And Miss Jerry, as an author and, well, nonprofit founder, feminist, and a badass mom, what are your short term and long term goals?
What are my short and long term goals? Oh gosh.
Please.
Well, I mean, I'm living it. So my short-term goal is of course to let people know about this book and start to bring more awareness to the options of motherhood. But my long-term goal is really to help a lot of women fundamentally change this narrative of what being a mother is in this modern age and how to get there. And so I measure my success in babies, actually. I want to empower women to be able to have their children in a way that's right for them and not be trapped in these restrictive fairy tales. So, a lot of that involves working with career women, those struggling with infertility, of course, but also those that are 25 to 40 who have the time to make a plan. And then ultimately, I really want to work to bring education about fertility timelines and reproductive timelines to colleges because this is something we just don't teach and women need to have this information. So my big goals are really to help all of those groups and fundamentally change the way that women understand their reproductive timelines and their paths to motherhood.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Harry, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you? Hmm.
Well, I guess what I would say is what I know is that there are a lot of women struggling with this right now who are trapped in that fairy tale and feel in control of their careers but feel powerless about how to build their families. And I guess what I want to do is just reach through the internet waves and give you a big hug and encouragement today because I believe even though my journey was difficult, there is hope. And I want to let all of you know that there is hope to create the kind of family that you want. It takes courage, it takes determination, and it takes a village that loves you, that doesn't always have to be the family that you grew up in. And with those things, I believe anything is possible. So I encourage you to reach out. We're going to provide all the information, but for me, my purpose on a daily basis is helping women who are struggling with these issues get clarity, confidence, and understand that they have choice. So I would just encourage you and say, seek out support because you can create the family that you dream about.
Thank you for that advice, Miss Jerry. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Well, yes. So one of the early books that I read was Single Mothers by Choice by Jane Mattis, who is a licensed counselor. And I was shocked to find out that she wrote that book and she was going through the single mother by choice journey in the 1980s and the 1990s. We're talking 30 years ago. So in some ways today, we're hearing, oh, people are becoming single mothers by choice, but Jane had the courage to do this 30 years ago when our culture was very different and we looked at divorce differently and we looked at single parenthood differently. And I just admired her courage. And so that book was a very good introduction to me, and it really inspired me on my journey and has given me a lot of confidence to do everything I'm doing today.
Thank you for that recommended book, Miss Cherie. And beyond the individual family, how can groups of mothers support each other in the mission, creating a new collective story in their communities?
Well, single motherhood by choice became not just a a nonprofit of its own. So there are local groups, there are internet groups and things like that. And I think when women who are considering single motherhood by choice and they get connected, they see that this is possible and that they're not alone. And I think that that's very comforting and really reassuring for women who want to take that path. So again, I urge you to get connected and realize that there are many people following along that same journey.
If a reader takes away just one liberating idea from your book, what do you hope it would be, Miss Cherie?
It would just be that there's not one single path to motherhood. And they are as unique as our fingerprints. And so I just think life becomes much better when you open up all the possibilities and understand that if one door closes, another door can open, and you can still create that family that you dream about.
Yes, people, wider. L- every time door close, it will open bigger, wider, and bolder. And Miss Sherry, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in third season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 love letters. Movie 101, Music 101, our fourth season, Science 101, Sex 101, second season of My Baby, Podcast Law 101, Mental Health 101, Bible Verses 101, and of course, Entrepreneur 101 coming this December. So, Miss Cherie, tell us, looking back on writing this, what was the most surprising thing you discovered or learned about yourself and your own mission of motherhood?
I think looking back, it was just how strong I actually was. I think in those moments, we feel very frail, we feel like a failure, we feel the struggle. But looking back on it all, I really saw the strength. And I also saw, I saw God's hand actually helping me in ways that I didn't realize. And so while this journey really tested my faith, I talk a lot in the book about how ultimately it strengthened my faith. And I saw all the people and all the circumstances that came together in order for me to achieve my family. So I saw that you have Bible verses 101 and things like that. This really is about a journey of faith, because I don't believe that you can create life without some conversation and some work with the creator. So, I feel like it's a partnership, and this journey really showed me that partnership with God.
A partnership indeed. And Miss Cherie, I'm inviting you to be my guest on Bible Verses 101. And please do share your amazing verse in the Bible. And thank you so much for sharing your book to the world. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, as well as empowering women all over the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your best selling book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Sure. Well, I mean, Mission Motherhood is available on Amazon. Just search Mission Motherhood Cheri Bergeron, and you'll be able to find that. It's available in hard copy as well as electronically. And then, as I said, my nonprofit, Cheri's Choice, is a place to serve women and to support women. So if you're going through this and you need support, you can reach out. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all the channels. Please let me know your story because it provides me great meaning knowing that I can help other women pursue their dream of motherhood.
Great meaning indeed. Yes, people less about Miss Cheri Bergeron because if you support her for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. More and more empowering advocacy will rise. So, Miss Cheri, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. I've enjoyed it so much.
Likewise. More to come, people. See you soon.